Hi, everyone. Oh, sure.
Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi.
How you doing, Mr. Shulman?
Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem.
Okay, I'm glad we're back. We're back in business.
Back to work. Vacation's over.
I'm going to start the book of Ruth because so we maybe finish the book by Shua's time. Dr. Cohen, how are you? I don't hear you. You're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Now I hear you.
I'm
You
good.
haven't been on for a long time.
I know. But I'm here. Haven't moved. Haven't moved from here.
Okay. A few more minutes, we'll start.
Larry Rabinowitz's son Davin for Soliantiv.
How was
And
he?
he did very, very nicely.
Oh, that's good. Malabani doesn't daven on Passover, huh?
What does it become? The shul is empty. And it wasn't that. I think we had about 25 or 30 people over here. But
Even on
they always go.
Even on Yiska Day, did you have more on Yiska?
Yeah, they had an outdoor Yiska also.
They had at least 125, maybe more on Yiska night, on Yiska Day. Yeah,
Well,
good attendance.
But as I said, but they also had Yiska outside at 11 o'clock after davening.
That's good.
So that brought a big crowd also.
Still, people are afraid to come. Who knows?
Yeah, I know that. I know.
Hopefully, with these vaccines, it will be helpful. I hope so. Okay,
Well,
let's begin.
So.
Like I mentioned, either you have the Book of Ruth, or I know in the back of your art scroll Humashim, they have also the Book of Ruth. I don't have the art scroll with me. Okay, the reason why we want to cover it, because this book, the Book of Ruth, is read on the holiday of Shavuos. Okay, and we received the Torah on the holiday of Shavuos, and we find that Ruth eventually, as the story progresses, is a righteous convert to Judaism, and from her descended King David. Okay, so let's go through the first chapter. Vayihi b'mei shefor hashoftim. It wasn't the days when the judges judged. But if you remember, many times I said it. Whenever you see those two words, Vayihi b'mei, and it was in the days of, what does it mean? What can
Something
you
bad
expect?
is gonna happen.
Right, something bad is going to happen. And where do we find it the very first time? In the day, and it was in the days of. The first time you see it is in the Parshas Lech Lecha, where there were Vayihi b'mei Amraphel melech Shinar. There was the days of Amraphel, the king of Shinar, and other kings, and there was a battle between five kings against four kings, and in that particular battle, Lot and his family was captured, and eventually Abraham was able to free them. So there's the first time we see Vayihi b'mei, where a bad thing happens. I'm not where do you find it? Well, you can Purim. Where do you find it by Purim time? The Megillah Esther. It opens up with the same words. Vayihi b'mei Achashverosh. And it was in the days of Achashverosh. And then you know the bad thing is going to be Haman. So that's a basic rule. And several times you find that. Vayihi b'mei. It was in the days of, it introduces something that's bad. And it was the days, and going back to Ruth, it was in the days of when the judges judged. So we know something bad's going to happen. Vayihi ra'ah ba'aretz. There was a famine in the land. That means the land of Eretz Israel. Ayelech Ishmi Beis Lechem Yehuda, and the person's name as of yet is not said. It's a man left at Beis Lechem. The name is the city, Yehuda, of the tribe of Yehuda. Now, why do we mention this? Why don't we mention his name over here? Because it was
He wasn't outstanding. He wasn't nice in the time he left when the community was starving.
Why was it so wrong for him to leave?
He
more
was
than
a
anyone?
big guy.
He was
He-
he was an affluent Jew. He was very wealthy. He could have sustained the people by helping them, but he did not follow through. And as you soon to see, he's leaving Beit Lechem. Some people say he left his house. It could be his house, Lechem Yehuda, because he refused to give bread or sustenance or resources to the population of Yehuda. So it really was wrong. That's what you want to say? Yeah. Go ahead.
But they do mention his name in 1 or 2 verses later.
Yeah, why don't they mention it over here? Because he didn't do the proper thing.
Well, why did they bother to mention it at all then?
Well, because eventually, as the story unfolds, you'll find that Ruth comes into the picture, and she's a righteous Gentile and a righteous convert to Judaism, and King David, the whole Malchus.
No, I'm not saying why don't they mention Ruth, but why do they mention his name? What is it? 2 more verses, the next verse.
Well, it doesn't mention right away because they're a little upset with him. But then they gave his name. But we'll soon see why he was called that name. But they don't mention him right away because we're not too proud of what he did. Okay. So anyway, a certain man who happened to be very affluent, he leaves Beit Lechem, that was in the territory of the tribe of Judah, L'gur b'stei Moab, to live. L'gur usually means just to live temporarily in the field of Moab, because we had the same thing. The same language of Bagur is not just to live, means living temporarily someplace. Where do you find that? Where somebody said, "I'm just here Bagur. I'm just here temporarily."
Abraham.
Where? Well, no,
Abraham.
not by Abraham. No, not by Abraham.
Didn't he go to Egypt temporarily because there was a famine?
No, that doesn't say Lagur. By Yaakov we find it. Yaakov said, he says, or the brothers said, we just came here to live temporarily because there's no food. Again, up there was also hunger. There was no food for themselves or for the animals. They went to Egypt. So Lagur always usually means just to live temporarily. And that was the point over here. Yes, he left his people in Beit Lechem. He could have helped them, and he didn't. He left, but even when he left, it was only on the condition that he's going temporarily out of Israel, and he went to the place of Moab, as I'm going to say, to Moab, to live temporarily in the fields of Moab. Who v'yishto u'shnei b'nov. He, we know his name soon, let's come up. His wife was his Naomi, and his 2 sons. So the whole family left Eretz Israel at that time, when they could have really could have helped out and given them resources, some food that he might have had to help them sustain the hungry. Okay. Now
So I have a
the
question.
yeah. Yeah.
Still about Elimelech.
Right.
Later on, okay, when the guy who's supposed to marry Ruth doesn't want to marry her,
Right,
right?
Tov his name.
He
Right,
doesn't
correct.
have a name. They make some silly name for him.
No, they call him Tov. Some say his name was Tov. Okay, well,
But-
we'll get to that. Yeah. Well, anyway,
So I
Yeah.
thought they just call him some ridiculous name, wasn't his real name.
as far as I know, his name was Tov. According to, we'll get to that.
Okay, so I was
Yeah.
just saying, if they don't give him his real name, why do they name Elimelech?
The only thing I can say about that is the Elimelech. We'll get to why he's called Elimelech. So this is in the second verse. It says, "Shame." Now it says his name. His name is Elimelech. You pick that word up. What his word in his name? It tells something that he had from his ancestors. Something that's going to happen to his descendants. What does Melech mean at the end? What is Melech?
King.
King. Okay.
Okay, so you
Eli,
think, okay, so
Eli,
it's
to be upon me, or descending from me, will be kings. So it seems like in the family tradition, they knew that from that family will come King David, Malchut David, the kingdom of Judah. He had that in it was known in his family. Yeah, so maybe in a way it's he should have known better. Maybe he shouldn't have gone to Moab. Look who's going to come out from him. That was the family tradition. The kingdom of Judah is going to come forth from his descendants. Okay, but nevertheless, although he knew that, his name implies that, but he made a mistake and he went to the fields of Moab.
But it really didn't come from him, it came from Boaz.
No,
Anyway, go ahead.
No. But Ruth, Boaz is from his family. He's a family member. It's not that right? Yeah,
like a
right.
cousin or
Boaz
something.
is his family
Yeah.
member. Yeah, and so from Ruth, he married Ruth, and multiple space love that came from him, the kingdom of David. Okay, so his name is Elimelech. The shame is Naomi, and the name of his wife is Naomi. What does Naomi? Pleasant. Good. The name really defines who she was. She was a very pleasant and wonderful woman. And maybe I don't know if she really wanted to leave, but she obeyed and did what her husband said. And b'shem shnei banov Machlon v'Chilyon Ephrosim. And then the 2 names of his sons was Machlon and Chilyon. And this word Ephrosim, a lot of talk about that. You look at Ephrosim is mentioned a lot of times in Tanakh. It doesn't mean Ephraim, although it looks like that. Ephrosim in this case means distinguished individuals. They came from an affluent, distinguished family. They were not from, and you can't say it means Ephraim. What tribe did they come from? They came from the tribe of Yehuda. So you cannot translate the word Ephraim as meaning people who came from Ephraim. It doesn't mean that. But the Ephraim in this case means Anoshim Chashuvim, very distinguished and honorable people. Okay. We base Lechem Yehuda from Bethlehem Yehuda. By Yavo stay Moab by Yusham, and they came to the field of Moab and they settled there. Now, very interesting point. What happened when Bnei Yisrael was going through the desert and they came to the territory of Moab? What did Moab do?
Moab attacked, right?
No,
No,
they
no,
didn't
Moab-
attack.
No.
They didn't attack. And Bnei
Well,
Yisrael
the
did not
guys
attack
couldn't
them.
marry the girls.
We'll come to that. But during the time when the Jews were passing through Moab,
They didn't give him food.
that's it. They didn't give him any food. Interesting. What happened to what was Elimelech doing? Elimelech did the same exact thing. He didn't learn from this place Moab. The ancestors of Moab, when our people were going through that area, they never came out to try to give Bnei Israel food and drink and so on. He's following the ways of Moab, in a way, right? He's gone to the fields of Moab, and Moab did the same thing, made the same mistake that Elimelech does. Because Moabim, the Torah says explicitly, it didn't offer any drink or food to Bnei Israel when they were traveling through by their area. They didn't come out to greet them with food. Okay, so he followed suit with that, following a Moabite way, which should not have been done. He made a mistake. He shouldn't have done that. Okay, so he goes to the field of Moab, and what does it say? Now, originally, I said Lagur. Remember, I mentioned in verse 1, when I said Lagur b'stei Moab, the original intent was not to stay there permanently, but temporarily. But what happened? They changed their mind. Vayiyusham. They stayed there in a permanent way. They didn't want to go back, at least until that point. It was 10 years before they came back, as we see further in the story. But over here, their original intent should be to just settle there temporarily, and it seemed like it was going on permanently. Then it says, verse 3, Vayomas Elimelech ish Naomi. And Elimelech passed on. He was the husband of Naomi. Now here's the Midrash, and I'm quoting it. It says the following: Tanya, learn in the Bryce. Lama nenash Elimelech. Why was Elimelech punished? Because when the hunger years came in Israel, he said, you know, everybody, all Yisrael are going to come to my door and drive me crazy. You know, Zebeku, so this one bring his basket. I want me to fill it with food or whatever, and this one's going to bring his basket. I can't handle this. I'm not going to do it. Omad ubarachol mipneim. He failed the test. He refused to help his fellow Jews. And what does he do? He flees to the field of Moab. And because of that,
I have a question.
well, let me just finish it. That's why, according to the Medrash, that's why he died while he was in the field of Moab, because he failed the test of doing chesed, kindness, to his fellow man. Yes, Karen.
So it says Ish Naomi.
Yeah.
So is that right? The husband of Naomi. So is the word usually it's Naomi? I don't know. It seems like they put him down a rank. Do they call him the husband of Naomi, or do you say Naomi his wife or something? In other words, her name is mentioned and his name isn't. Does that mean anything?
Well, according to Gemara in the Sanhedrin, it says that he was very dedicated to his wife. That's what it says. And okay, unfortunately, he passed on, but we know why he passed on, because he made a mistake and he refused to help his fellow Jews. Although he was capable of doing so. That's the point. You know, not that he didn't have it, just didn't want to bother with it. That's what the Midrash brings down. Okay. Now, so fortunately, Elimelech passed on. Who's left? Naomi's left all alone, and her two sons. Okay. Now, as it happens many times, you go into a foreign area, and your children meet non-Jewish women, and they intermarry, and that's exactly what happened over here. But it says, and it's interesting, while the father was alive, the sons, I should say, the sons didn't do this. It's only after Elimelech passed on, and Naomi is widowed. And look what it says now. But Vayisrael Noshim Avlos, now they married Moabite women. They did not do it in the time of when the father was alive. Had respect for the father, not to marry non-Jewish women. And in this case, they married these Moabite women. Now there is a dispute in the Gemara, in the Midrashim. Most of them maintain that there was no conversion that was done. So really, here you have Elimelech, and his two sons married non-Jewish women. Some say there was some sort of conversion, but most opinions are that they did not marry, the women did not convert at that point. Okay. Shem Hachas Orpah. The first one's name is Orpah. Now, the rabbis always love to take names of people and read into it something that will happen. When the when the Jews went out of Egypt and they worshipped the golden calf, God referred to them as that they were stiff-necked people. That's Oref. So, and over here, Orpah has the same root word as Oref, the ayin resh pei. So some say eventually she's going to turn away from becoming Jewish, or if she did convert, she's going away from it. Just like a hint to what's going to happen. Shem Hashin is Ruth, and the name of the second girl was Ruth. Now, Ruth has a lot of meaning before. That was not her Hebrew. That was not her original name. Ruth really came after converted. If she converted, here it mentions it already. Now, Ruth, if you take the numerical value of Ruth, it's also an interesting thing. How much is Resh? 200. Resh, right? Vav is 6. Off is 400. How much do we have there? 606. 606. Now, every non-Jew is required to observe how many mitzvot? How many? We call the Noachide mitzvot. What? How many Noachide mitzvot? 7, right?
613.
So she's called
7, right?
Because she added on 606 more mitzvot. 7. All non-Jews are required to have the Noachide mitzvot. And now when she converted 606, I mean 613 already. The numerical value of Rus is 606, right?
6.
Right, 606. Okay, so that tell me that
I have another question.
Yeah.
So her sons died because they married Moabites.
Both
but he
right,
actually picked a very good Moabite to marry who converted. So why is he punished for marrying a good woman?
Well, it's amazing, Ruth, she must have seen something in her mother-in-law's house, something about Judaism. So she really embraced it, as we soon see later on. The other daughter-in-law, Orpah, she's like Orpah comes from stiff necks. Turned away from it. She turned herself away from it after her husband died. She went back home to live a Moabite life and serve their gods.
Ruth's husband, Ruth's husband, one of Naomi's sons, died because he married her.
Possibly, they both died. Both of her sons died. Naomi had a terrible time.
I'm just saying because Ruth became the husband.
I don't hear it. Yeah, you're not coming through. By the way, if it wasn't
for Naomi's son, okay, who married Ruth, we might not have had David.
Correct. You're 100% correct on that.
Okay, so why was her son punished? He made a good choice.
Yeah, but at that time, she was still a Moabite woman, and maybe she saw it. Not until after the sons died. What?
What was the cause of their death?
I don't know what the cause was. No, they were punished because he left
Some had a
Israel.
bigger plan.
Yeah,
But in
about
those days, they had a lot of plagues and diseases that killed people readily.
well, it might have happened, but they already punished me just like the father because they left Israel, and at this point had married non-Jewish women.
Hmm.
Yeah, but we're soon going to see that now these two sons of the husbands have passed on, and now you're going to see that they must have had some sort of knowledge of Judaism, because we'll soon see that Orpah turns her neck against it, turns away from it. But Ruth loved it and escorted her mother-in-law Naomi when she went back to Israel.
So she could have become the mother of David, even if it was one of Elimelech's sons. It's the same Davidic
Possibly,
line.
but the way the history unfolded didn't turn out like that. Look at it. This is all. It's divinely inspired. Yeah, they have to be in Moab, but sometimes even the bad things, good things come from it. This particular good came from bad. It happens sometimes. Yeah, because Ruth, as you said, Ruth, look at who came out from Ruth. The whole Davidic kingdom came from her, and Mashiach. If you go all the way to the end, imagine that coming from a Ruth who was really a Moabite. I mean, she converted.
Right.
It's an amazing thing. Okay, where are we?
Line 4.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Again, now just let me do that again. So they married the two sons of Naomi. And remember, they had that much respect for their father. They didn't marry these Moabite women until their father died. And they married these women, these Moabite women. Shem Achas Orpah, like I mentioned, one was Orpah. Shem is Ruth, and the second one was Ruth. Mentioned that. So said it wasn't just a temporary living there. It was 10 years. They spent 10 years over there. Okay. Now, what happens is, like you mentioned, both of them, both sons, Machlon, Bechilyon, passed on. So who's left now? But Rishon is Naomi, the mother, is all left alone. She lost her two sons and also her own husband. So Naomi, it was very difficult for her. It wasn't a very pleasant thing. She lost her, husband and sons. Now she realized that all this doesn't happen must be because we're here in the territory of Moab. We don't belong here. We're not Moabites. So after she lost everything, she says, we mustn't since these horrible things have happened, it's time for me to return. I have to return to Eretz Israel. That's exactly what she does. But interestingly enough, she picks herself up and she wants to return. And at this point, her daughters-in-law, both daughters-in-law, escort her. But Tosha Mistay Moab, and she returns to the field of Moab. Now, at this point of the story, we don't know what is the thoughts of the two daughters-in-law. Do they really are they just escorting her just part of the way and going back to Moab? Or do they want to go completely to Israel and live there? And we'll soon see there's a split, that one daughter-in-law is very committed, which is Ruth, of course, and the other daughter-in-law, Orpah, says, no, I don't want to live in Israel. I'm a Moabite. I'll go back to my way of life. No. And by the way, when she said, as we soon see, my way of life was going back to paganism. But Ruth does not. So we see a split in the family like this. It happens, unfortunately, many times. Okay. So and the verse 6. But Tokam he Bechalo, so she got up, she wants to go, and her daughter-in-laws also. But Tosha Misnei Moab, and she returns, or she wants to return from the field of Moab. But why did she First of all, she thought of what happened, and also some other important thing. Kisham Ob Moab, because she heard while she was in the fields of Moab, Kifokar Hashem Esamo, that Hashem, God has remembered his people, will say Slam Lachem. Hungry years have gone, and she could go back and at least have food there. Now, from whom did she hear this? How did she hear it? They didn't have newspapers or like we have today. How did she know about this news that now there's plenty of food in Israel, no more famine, and now's the time to go back? So it seems like, according to the Midrash, she heard from Jewish peddlers. Jewish peddlers going around selling their goods. In those days, that's what they used to do. And she heard from them. Hey, you should know, everything is okay in Israel. Okay, so that's why she wants to return back to Israel. Because Hashem has remembered his people to give them lechem, to give them bread. Now, verse 7. And she left the place where she was. Now her two daughters-in-law were with her. And they were going on the road. Return to the land of Yehuda. Now there is a midrash, they like to read into words, but the word halacha comes from word to go. Halacha is really the laws. How does one proceed in one's life? You have to follow certain rules and regulations. So some want to read into it's not just they walked and they going with her. Perhaps these discussions may have come up many times that they want to learn more about halachos. And Naomi maybe was telling them more of the Jewish law. They knew something, obviously, if they came from they married men who came from a Jewish home, they had some knowledge of it. And now Naomi is telling them other halachos. Because maybe the question did come up, should they return with her and convert? So but they meant that they went with her on the road, and as they were going with her, they were discussing many halachos, many rules and regulations that a Jewish home must perform. Okay. They're working and discussing these things. L'shuv el Eretz Yehuda, return to the land of Yehuda. However, after the discussion, Naomi wants to say, look, you have to really want it from yourself. If you don't, all what I could say, I'm just telling you these things, but that doesn't mean you have to do it. And here Naomi was saying, maybe they said, oh, maybe I convert. And I say, oh, look what it says. But Naomi, and Naomi says to her two daughters-in-law, Lech no shov, no, go back. Maybe this is not a lifestyle for you. Return to your old ways, to the Moabite ways. After all, you are Moabite women. It says, Shovna Isha Beis Mimah, go back to your home. Ya'as Hashem imochem chesed, and God will go ahead and deal kindly with you. Kasher asisim min hamesim, you were very good to me. It seems like they did treat her properly. She even says, you were very good when it came, in reference to my sons, when they died, to make sure they were buried with the crowds and so on. And you took care of all that, and you were very good to me. But maybe to go ahead to totally commit yourself to a life of Jewish rulings, that's maybe not for you. And in fact, by the way, that's to this very day, whenever we have some person who says, we'd like to convert, we want to become Jewish, we don't want to say, oh, yes, by all means, you try to say, maybe this is not a lifestyle for you. Maybe you don't want it. There's a lot to do. And after they hear some of the halachos, some of the rulings of Shabbat and holidays and so on, they might say, well, this is not the type of lifestyle we want. But if this is the lifestyle they'll say, let's say, this is the type of lifestyle we want to have, then you can proceed, and eventually, if they want to convert, it can be done. But and that's what Naomi did. She told them things, and they said, look, Go home. If this is not for you, you could go home.
But Rabbi,
Yeah.
Rabbi, since men were not allowed to marry Moab women,
Ah,
how could she go back with a Moab daughter-in-law?
Because there is a special halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Now we have a special ruling from the oral tradition that when the Torah said that a Moabite or Ammonite cannot come into the congregation of God, it only meant the males, but not the females. That's the halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Yeah, that's why eventually, if they do convert, a Moabite woman can marry a Jewish man. But the reverse is not true. But based on this halacha, that a Moabite man, even though he converts, cannot marry a Jewish woman. Marry another Moabite who converted. Yeah, okay. And that's a special halacha, which at that seems from this first chapter, it really wasn't well known, this particular halacha, because later on, as the story progresses, and Ruth and Boaz at that time, Ruth and Boaz want to get married, a lot of people protested and said, Boaz, how could you? You're not allowed to have a Moabite wife. And he had to publicize it, that's incorrect. But we have a special oral tradition that says only Moabite men who converted cannot marry Jewish women, but a Moabite woman who converted may marry a Jewish man. That was a special halacha from Sinai. But it really wasn't, like I said, it wasn't publicized with that. And I want you to know, remember, going a little ahead of this, when you get in the book of Samuel, remember the Philistines were fighting the Jews in the days of Saul, and Goliath, called Goliath, was a giant, a titan, and he came out and he said, he challenged anyone to fight him. And David said he'll do it. And Shaul was wondering, Milanad, who is this fellow? Seems like somebody said, he's not even Jewish. He comes from a Moabite woman. And Shaul sent a messenger to the court, to the Beit Din, Sanhedrin at that time, and asked them, is this permitted? This fellow, David HaMelech, is he really Jewish? He said, okay. His ancestor was a Moabite woman who married a Jew. And they came back with the ruling, he is Jewish. But what I just mentioned, since she was a Moabite a woman, she was allowed to convert and marry a Jew, but not the reverse. It was a Moabite man cannot marry a Jewish woman. So David was Jewish, but they questioned David's ancestry many times. Yeah, but and finally he was accepted. All right, so let's go. Where am I? Right now.
Verse 8.
Where are we? Verse 8.
8.
God, my books are closed. Okay, so let's go 8 again. So now Naomi was aware of. I don't know if Naomi knew that ruling as of yet, but maybe she did. I'm not sure, but about the Moabite woman. Even when a Moabite woman converts to marry a Jewish woman, maybe she didn't. I'm not certain, but certainly it was not publicized. So Naomi then says to her two daughters-in-law, return back home. Again, she wants to not encourage it. Maybe because you don't want this type of lifestyle. Isha, levesim, each woman to her mother's house. And she says, Yas Hashem Mechem Chesed, and God should go ahead and do kindness with you. Kasher asisim inamaisim imoti. Because it's clearly in the book of Ruth that we see that her daughters-in-law was very, very good to her, and they made certain that her sons would very properly, and must have been very good for her during that whole time. And she blesses them. Hashem grant you, and you'll find security. Isha base Isha, each in the home of her husband. She said, maybe get married to you more by people. And you kiss them. And it was very emotional. They raised their voices, and all of them cried. So she was telling them to go home. That was her first thing, to try to discourage them from coming. Or I saw one commentary, maybe this was also another reason why she wanted to discourage them. Listen, Naomi's coming back. She was known as a great woman, and she felt maybe a little funny by bringing back Moabite women. What will people say? She's concerned about that too. You have to have that in mind too. That could be another reason. It doesn't say that clearly over here, but that could be another reason. She might have been embarrassed by bringing two Moabite women with her. So that's why she tells them to go back home. But Tomar law, and they said to her, no, you talk, we want to return to your people. Now, what does that mean when they said, we want to return to your people?
Turn to Judaism.
Exactly. They said, no, we want to embrace Judaism. It's to this point. Okay. Now she tells them again. Tomar Nami. And Nami again said to them, show them what it's like. Return, go back home, my daughters. Why go with me? Why come with me? She says, obviously she was an elderly woman, because I don't have any more children that I can give you. I have no sons. So they can't be, you cannot marry them. Obviously I cannot go ahead and give you my husband's, because obviously I can't, they would have to wait so many years. But anyway, this meant that I can't give you anything. And she tells him again, show them outside, go back home, return. She's discouraging them. If you don't want to embrace our type of faith and all the mitzvahs that we have to perform, I'm too old to have any more children. I'm not going to get married. If I do get married, even for some reason I meet somebody and I have a relations with a man. They got me a lot of people on him, and I give birth to sons. The age gap will be too great. You're going to wait that long? Look what she says in verse 13. Will you wait for them? It's something that's impossible. You're going to wait till they get bigger and grow up. You be without a husband. No, don't do that, my daughters. No, I'm very embittered according to that, in reference to that. Yotze be Yad Hashem, and God, and here she admits, she feels that Naomi herself feels she was punished because of what had happened. Her sons married non-Jews. Now, if you look over here, the word te'ogena means would you wait till any children will grow up? Of course you're not. But what do we call a woman today who wants a divorce, but the husband does not want to give it to her? Very sad situation. What do you call that? Guna. Right? So look at the word te'ogena, the root word. Te'ogena. Are you going to wait without getting married? So of course, unfortunately, if a marriage does not work out, and a husband should give his wife the Jewish divorce, which is known as a get. And the women who they don't do it, it's really a terrible thing. They're called a isha aguna, and it's definitely discouraged by our rabbis. In fact, I know if you look at some of the Jewish papers, they actually list the men who refuse to give a get to their wives. The men have a civil divorce, but that's not enough. Even if one has a civil divorce, a get is important before you can marry another man. So unfortunately, we have such men like that, and we try to discourage that and talk to them to give their woman a get. And that's why they listed in the paper of certain Jewish courts that say so and so did not give a get to his wife. And some of them, after they see that, they're embarrassed by that, and they finally give it to them. But it's a very sad thing. Okay.
I have another comment.
Right.
I'm full of comments today, I guess.
Yeah, you're okay. I like it. I don't know all the answers though.
Okay, so this is, I don't know how to formulate it, so it's very clear, but it made me remember Tamar and Yehuda.
Right.
And, okay, so I was wondering if there's any similarity between the language and the case is reversed. And on the other hand, it is related because it's Yehuda. It's the
Yeah,
descendants
it
of
was a
Yehuda.
deliberate marriage, no question about it. It was before
Huh?
it was that type of what we call a deliberate marriage. It was in the family.
Right, and Yehuda
Yeah.
refused. Yehuda
But-
refused, so that's why Tamar seduced Yehuda.
Correct. That's it. It was before the Matan Torah. That could have been
So
committed.
I was
You're right.
wondering,
After the
if
Torah
the
was given,
language in some
that would
way
be
is
wrong.
similar.
Well, yeah, all I know is that was before Matan Torah. Not all the rules were observed before Matan Torah.
So what parsha was that in? I'm gonna look it up.
Okay, I know that is a good question. We should find something out. Very good. Where are we? No, you're very good. This is one of my favorite verses. I think everybody loves this verse from the book of Ruth. How Ruth, oh wait. Oh no, I'm sorry. Verse 14, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, let's do that. But the Senate colon, they raised their voices, very emotional. But again, everyone cried. You could just feel it, they knew they knew each other for 10 years, and now they're parting, and they're crying over it. But here you see a split. But Tishak Orpa Lachamo. So when Orpa heard what her mother-in-law said, maybe she was thinking this, maybe my mother-in-law is right. I'm a Moabite woman. It may be very difficult for me to go to Israel and observe everything that the Jews do in Israel. But here was a contrast. Ruth Ruth clung to her. Ruth was very committed. Whatever she was taught, she liked. She wanted to go on and fully convert when she gets to Israel. Okay, so Orpah has already left. But Tomer, look, your sister-in-law returned to her people and to her God. In other words, she does not. Maybe she doesn't fully accept the idea of one God. But so went back to her people and to her God. Well, what was the Moabite God? You know the name of the Moabite God? One of the
Baal.
Baal, maybe. Kamosh. The Torah brings down Kamosh. Kamosh. In Pashas Chukot, what is it? Chukosai. That it was Kamosh. Was the god of the Moabites. Shuvi Achrevid. Go back. If you Ruth should go ahead and follow your daughter, your sister-in-law. Go back. Okay. This is the beautiful phrase that Ruth says. Very, I think, is well known. Atoma Ruth, and Ruth said, "Al tifgivi, do not urge me, to leave you, shuv mecharayach, and turn away from you. Ki akol asher tilchi elech, wherever you will go, I will go. Asher talini alim, wherever you will lodge, I will lodge. Amich, ami, your people are my people. Your God is my God." So I think she was very committed, Ruth, and she was willing to accept everything that the required required of Judaism. Okay. Next week, no, what's today? Tuesday. Thursday.
Tuesday.
It's Tuesday, right? Okay, Thursday.
Yeah.
We'll continue and talk about this verse. It's a very important verse. It's a very beautiful verse, but there's so much in it. So let's leave it for Thursday night to discuss it at 8:00, I think. So, okay. So have a wonderful day.
You too.
Hope you got a little bit into the understanding of Ruth. It's not so simple. Okay.
Thank you, Rabbi. Sorry I was
Okay.
late. My computer didn't
See you
work.
Thursday,
Thank you.
God willing, at 8:00.